So at risk of beating a horse that's already running, we continue our study of Brachos Daf Daled L'David Shamra Nafshi Ki Chassid Ani. King David said, "Guard over my soul because I am pious." And I want to take two different perspectives based on the Zohar and on the Medrash that says as follows. David HaMelech elsewhere in Tehillim calls himself Ani ve'Evyon. He refers to himself as a poor and destitute person. God, hear my prayer because I am poor and destitute. And the Medrash says, the Zohar says, Hashem says to David HaMelech, to King David, do you call yourself poor and destitute? You are the great king of Israel. You have vanquished many, many kings. Don't call yourself poor and destitute. And so David HaMelech returns and says, LeDavid Shamra Nafshi Ki Chassid Ani, guard over my soul because I'm pious. And Reb Nachman says that a person should take a lesson when he reads this pasuk, and always have the ability to look at oneself in the mirror and see the chassid inside of them. To always be able to judge themselves favorably. And that in our self-concept, we should be able to find within ourselves not the Ani ve'Evyon, the poor and destitute person, but the servant of God, the spiritual seeker, the person who has accomplished great things, who has vanquished many kings. And certainly all of us have both. We're all both Ani ve'Evyon and Chassid. We're all both people who have so much missing in our life, so much yet to accomplish, but also by the very fact that we're standing here today, that we're sitting here, we came to shul, we're learning Torah, we also have the inner chassid. And so one might say that it's healthy to see what you have yet to accomplish, and to see how poor and destitute you are, and to see how potentially flawed I am. But that, while it presents the problem, doesn't present the solution. And Hashem tells David HaMelech, and he hears this with his heart, don't see the problem, see the solution. If you focus on the inner chassid, that's not to say that you're okay, as we discussed in the past. Saying that a person is a servant of God, and saying that they have the potential to be a chassid, and seeing their successes, if it's about service of Hashem, will never lead a person to rest on their laurels and say, I'm orthodox, I'm good. It would, on the contrary, call a person to say, if I am a chassid, if I'm a pious person, if I've accomplished great things in my life, then I am a chassid and I should continue. I am a pious person and I should continue to live that kind of life. And this brings me to the other interpretation of this pasuk, which is also in Medrash, that says, why does David ask God, guard over my soul because I am pious? It's as though David HaMelech, King David, is suggesting that it's particularly because he's pious that he needs to be protected. And the explanation given in Medrash is that exactly right. When a person sees themselves as being a chassid, as being pious, that's when they need extra special protection. It's like a person who says, I'm orthodox. There's no such thing as being orthodox. There is only, what am I doing in this moment? If a person can identify themselves as being on a plateau of pious, then they have to pray that Hashem should protect them from becoming complacent because of their self-concept. So we present this dichotomy. On the one hand, we don't want to look at ourselves through the lens of the problem. We want to look at ourselves as the lens of the power that we have to face the problem. On the other hand, we have to recognize that healthy and positive self-concept can lead a person to be complacent and to rest on their laurels. And really, it reminds me of a time I was discussing this once with a group of teenagers, and it was a mixed group. Some of them were from first generation religious Jews. Even among the group was a young man who had himself begun on the journey of exploring a Torah lifestyle. Also in the group were a number of young men from very established and well-known Chassidic families. These boys, however, were themselves not necessarily, representing the way their grandfathers lived, let's just say. You understand, if there's a boy in the group who is just exploring living a Torah life, this is somebody who, is not yet fully observant. So they were kind of meeting each other on the road. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I posed the question, what is it to be a chassid? And we had this whole conversation covering many of the topics that we've discussed up until now. And one of the boys came over to me afterwards and says, Rabbi, I don't understand. If your grandfather is a chassid, then you're a chassid. This is one of the boys from the very established chassid. He identified as a chassid because his grandfather was a chassid. Right? So that's something that has no place in Torah thought and Hasidic thought. Certainly, if a person carries on the legacy of their ancestors, they have a schus avos, they have a merit, they have a legacy that they're carrying on, they have a history, they have a tradition that they are living, but it doesn't happen because it's in the past, it happens because we're embodying it right now. And so this self-identification of chassid requires shamra nafshi, guard my soul. The Maggid of Mezrich also said, shamra nafshi, he said, shamra loshon shmorim. He said, I have to watch out that I shouldn't collect the sediment. When I learn Torah, I shouldn't collect the sediment, I should collect the wine. And, shmorim is the Hebrew word for sediment that gathers on the bottom of the thing. And he says, negativity attracts negativity. And so, shamra nafshi, you have to watch out for the sediment. So, I wish that we should all be able to effectively walk this line of having a positive self-concept and at the same time a healthy sense of self-doubt, that we understand that we have to continue to motivate ourselves, continue to push ourselves in the service of Hashem. And this is reflected perhaps in the very end of the passage, in which David HaMelech says, Velo od, not only do I do the things that we discussed, that he wakes up early to study Torah, and that he is hands-on in his analysis of halacha, caring, as we discussed last night, caring not that the halacha is fulfilled, but that the motivation why Hashem commanded us to do this mitzvah is really carried out in the fullest sense. He says, Velo od, not only this, El ishakol ma shani ose ani nimlach b'mefiboshes Rabbi. Everything that I do, I consult with my teacher Mephibosheth. And this here shows David HaMelech's sense of humility and sense of the awareness that he can make a mistake and that he can, being at that place where he is a powerful person and is really doing many things, he recognizes that it is specifically because he's a chassid and because he's doing so many great things that he particularly has to ask the advice of his Rebbe Mephibosheth.